Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
What is black noise?
Black noise?
Yeah.
Black noise is something that Barrow's got very interested in. It's
intriguing.
Well, no, it's one facet of black noise is that everything, like a glass, if an opera singer hits a particular note, the vibrations are out of the metabolism of the glass and it cracks it, yeah? So black noise is the register within which you can crack a city or people, or it's a new controlled bomb. It's a noise bomb, in fact, which can destroy.
Is it a real thing? I mean, is it something that's actually somebody's experimenting
invented
with?
in France.
Could a tyrant use it to...
Well, until last year, you could buy the patent for it in the French patent office for about equivalent to $3-4.
And it would wipe out it's concentrated...
It depends how much money you put into it. I mean, a small one could probably kill about half the people here, but a big one could destroy a city, or even more. I mean,
it's a weird idea.
Don't look at it's not my idea.
No. Well, let's not give the instructions on how to do it.
Picture this. It's 1974. David Bowie walks into the Dick Cavett show. He's pale, thin, electric. And he tells America about something called black noise. A frequency that can crack cities, a sound bomb that could kill half the audience in that studio.
The interviewer laughs nervously. Is Bowie serious? Is this performance art? The camera cuts away. But Bowie's warning stays hanging in the air.
50 years later, we're finding out he wasn't joking. The technology exists. The history is documented. And the story goes back way further than the 1970s.
Welcome to Transition Radio Show. I'm Lena Ariel Cummings.
And I'm Mark Angelo. Today we're driving into black noise, a frequency weapon that the French government tested in the 1950s, that ancient civilization may have mastered thousands of years ago, and that could be operating in your city right now without you even knowing it.
This isn't conspiracy theory. This is physics, history, and a warning about power you can't hear, but absolutely can feel.
Let's start with what happened in France in 1957.
Marseille, France. A team of scientists led by Dr. Vladimir Gavreau are working in their laboratory. Nothing unusual about the day, except everyone is getting violently sick.
We're talking nausea, dizziness, eye pain, internal organ pain. At first, I think it's chemical exposure or maybe food poisoning, but medical tests show nothing, and the symptoms keep happening day after day.
Gavreau starts investigating the building itself. He's thinking maybe there's a gas leak or contamination in the walls, and that's when he finds it. A malfunctioning ventilation fan producing a vibration at 7 hertz.
7 vibrations per second. You can't hear it. It's below the range of human hearing. But your body feels every single cycle.
They shut down the fan, symptoms disappear. But now Gavro's thinking, if an accidental 7 hertz frequency made his entire team sick, what happens if you create that frequency deliberately?
So he builds devices, massive organ pipes, 6 feet across, 75 feet long, compressed air whistles, what he calls sonic cannons, piston-driven machines designed to produce infrasound.
And when they turn these devices on, the effects are terrifying. People report nausea that lasts for days, visual disturbances, flashing lights, spatial disorientation, slurred speech, loss of coordination, pain in the heart, lungs, stomach, and intestines.
The buildings itself start shaking. They document minor earthquakes, structural damage to the laboratory. This isn't theoretical anymore. Gavreau has created a weapon that can affect both human bodies and physical structures using nothing but sound waves you can't even hear.
Now here's what makes 7 hertz so dangerous. Your brain operates on electrical rhythms called brainwaves. Normal waking consciousness runs at about 8 to 12 hertz. That's your alpha state. When you're sleeping or in deep meditation, you drop down to 4 to 7 hertz theta waves.
So when you're bombarded, someone with 7 hertz from an external source, you're interfering with their brain's natural electrical rhythms. You're creating chaos in the system that controls everything from breathing to heartbeat to consciousness itself.
But it gets worse. Different organs in your body also have resonant frequencies. Your heart vibrates around 5 hertz naturally. Your thorax around 4 to 6 hertz. Your abdomen 6 to 9 hertz.
So when you hit someone with 7 hertz at high enough power, you're not just disrupting their brain. You're forcing their internal organs to vibrate beyond their natural range. Think of an opera singer shattering a wine glass. Same physics, but it's happening inside a human body.
Gavreau achieves power levels up to 2 kilowatts of infrasonic energy. In his notes, he estimated that scaled-up versions could affect targets within a 5-mile radius. That's not a weapon anymore. That is a strategic tool.
And the French government's response? Official statement saying they're not developing weapons. Gavreau's research goes quiet, but the patent remains. Patents for infrasonic armor, defense systems to protect against acoustic attacks.
You don't build a shield unless you know the sword exists. Gavreau wasn't just theorizing, he'd created it. And someone somewhere was taking it very, very seriously.
Fast forward to 1974. David Bowie meets William S. Burroughs, the novelist, the cultural rebel, the guy who spent his life investigating exactly the kind of government programs nobody wants to talk about.
Burroughs tells Bowie about something he's been researching: black noise. Not white noise, which is all frequencies, not silence, which is no frequencies. Black noise, concentrated low-frequency sound, designed as a weapon.
And Burroughs drops this detail. You can walk into the French patent office and buy the plans for $3 or $4. The technology is sitting right there in public records, available to anyone who knows what they're looking for.
Bowie is fascinated. A few months later, he's on the Dick Cavett show, and Cavett asks him about black noise. And that's where we started the program.
Yeah.
He literally said, "What?"
A small one could probably kill about half the people here, but a big one could destroy a city or even more.
Cavett laughs nervously. The audience is uncertain, and Bowie just stares into the camera with that intensity he had. Not performing, not joking, warning.
Now we have to be honest about where Bowie was in 1974. Heavy cocaine use, paranoid thinking, obsession with the occult. He's not a reliable narrator in the traditional sense.
But here's the thing. Paranoid doesn't mean wrong. Bowie moved through circles most people never would have access to. He knew artists, aristocrats, engineers, intelligence people. He was exposed to information that was not making it into mainstream media.
And when you look at what he describes, resonance breaking glass, frequency affecting structures, weapons that don't explode but vibrate, he's describing exactly what Gavreau had already demonstrated in his laboratory.
So either Bowie had access to information about classified acoustic weapons research, or he was brilliant enough to extrapolate from publicly available physics what those weapons would do. Either way, he got it right.
Yeah, the interview cuts off. Whether that's natural or editorial, we don't know. But the clip vanishes from circulation for decades. It resurfaces on YouTube in the 2000s, and suddenly people are asking, was Bowie warning us about something real?
Here's what we do know for certain. By 1974, multiple governments had researched infrasound as a weapon. The US military explored it, the Soviet Union explored it. The technology that Bowie described wasn't science fiction. It was science fact.
And the patent he mentioned, we can't verify it under the name Black Noise, but related patents exist. Gavreau's infrasonic armor patents, French research into high-power sound generators assigned to government research centers, the paper trail is there.
What Bowie did was take classified or obscure information and broadcast it to millions of people through the medium of entertainment. If you're someone with secret knowledge and you want to get it out into public consciousness without getting shut down, you don't write a research paper. You put on eyeliner, walk onto late night television, and deliver the truth as if it's a ghost story.
Because people will laugh, but they'll remember. And 50 years later, when the technology becomes undeniable, they'll go back and realize he was telling us the whole time.
Now here's where this story gets deeper. We've been talking about black noise as if it's some 20th century discovery, but what if it wasn't? What if ancient civilizations already knew how to weaponize frequency and how to use it for healing?
The Great Pyramid of Giza. When acoustic researchers started analyzing the king's chamber, they found something shocking. The chamber resonated at 114 to 122 hertz, the exact frequency range of the male human voice.
That's not random. The dimensions of the chamber use a precise 2-to-1 ratio calculated to produce those frequencies. The sarcophagus itself acts as a resonator. When you speak or chant inside that chamber, your voice amplifies in ways that would seem supernatural if you didn't understand the physics.
But here's what really matters. Underneath the pyramid, in the subterranean chamber, the structure produces infrasound at 5.13 hertz. That's below hearing range. That's in the range that affects consciousness, creates altered states, generates what ancient people would have called spiritual experiences.
So the Egyptians built a machine, a frequency device. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb. It was acoustic technology designed to manipulate consciousness through sound.
And they weren't alone. Stonehenge in England, researchers built a scale model and tested it in an acoustic laboratory. The stone circle creates what they call an acoustic bubble. Sound inside the circle amplifies. Sound from outside can't penetrate.
Different positions within Stonehenge produce different frequencies. At the edges of the circle, you get resonances around 5.2 hertz. That's theta brainwaves, deep meditation trance states. And at the center, you get closer to 10 hertz, alpha waves, alert but relaxed consciousness.
Stonehenge was engineered to use frequency to shift human consciousness. You position different people at different points in the circle, you generate specific sounds, and you systematically guide an entire group of people into altered states. It's brainwave entrainment built in stone.
Saqqara in Egypt has what researchers call sound healing chambers, small sealed rooms carved from limestone. When you test them acoustically, they resonate at 110 hertz, a frequency that modern research associates with cellular regeneration and deep meditative states.
These aren't accidents. These are engineered spaces built by people who understood exactly how frequency affects human biology and consciousness.
And here's what ties it all together. Ancient cultures around the world were tuning their instruments and their sacred sounds to specific frequencies that modern physics has only recently identified.
The Schumann resonance. It's the fundamental electromagnetic frequency of the Earth, 7.83 hertz. Lightning strikes create electromagnetic waves that bounce between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, and that cavity resonates at 7.83 hertz.
This is verified physics, predicted mathematically in 1952, confirmed experimentally. The Earth has a frequency, and it is 7.83 hertz.
Now, in Vedic traditions, the sacred sound Om is chanted at approximately 7.83 hertz. Ancient Hindu mystics identify Earth's exact resonant frequency and encoded it in a sound that's been chanted for thousands of years.
Ancient Tibetan singing bowls resonate at 432 hertz, and 432 hertz is harmonically related to 7.83 hertz. If you keep doubling the Schumann resonance, you eventually reach 432 hertz. Ancient peoples were deliberately aligning their sacred sounds with Earth's frequencies.
So we have multiple ancient civilizations: Egyptian, Neolithic British, Vedic Indian, Tibetans, all of whom understood that specific frequency affect consciousness and align with natural Earth resonance. This wasn't mysticism. This was applied physics.
Which means that when Gavreau discovered that 7 hertz could affect human consciousness, he wasn't discovering something new. He was rediscovering something ancient.
And that raises a massive question. If ancient people knew how to use frequency for healing and spiritual development, did they also know it could be weaponized? Did black noise exist 5,000 years ago?
There's no evidence of ancient acoustic weapons in the archaeological record, at least not that's been interpreted that way, but the knowledge was there. The understanding that frequency affects matter and consciousness was encoded in temples and sacred sites across the planet.
And if that knowledge existed in ancient times, what happened to it? Where did it go?
That's very interesting. I mean, when we talk about the things that we've lost, the things that we don't know about. I mean, we're talking about being like spoon-fed the news for so many years by the major, it was at the time, 3 major networks, CBS, ABC, and NBC. They were the ones that were the relay messengers of any events that would happen, you know? So this is like knowledge that we do not even fathom the depths of yet, you know, and it's amazing.
The use of this kind of technology has been used to generate different timelines, to travel to different timelines, has it been generated to hurt humanity in ways that are unthinkable.
Yeah. So let's talk about something most historians won't touch, the possibility that relatively recent civilizations, maybe just a few hundred years ago, possessed advanced acoustic technology that's been deliberately forgotten.
Or deliberately hidden. We're talking about what's called the Old World. Some researchers call it Tartaria, a civilization that appears on hundreds of historical maps from the 1500s through the 1800s, spanning Central Asia and beyond. Then it vanishes from maps and history books around the early 1900s. Convenient.
Now, mainstream historians say Tartaria was just a vague European term for regions that they don't know much about. As knowledge improved, the term was replaced with more specific names. Nothing mysterious.
But when you start looking at buildings from the 1800s and early 1900s, particularly around the World Fairs, you encounter things that don't add up. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair, 200 buildings covering 690 acres built in 2 years, we're told.
That is unfathomable.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a period of time when the electric drill had not even been invented yet. There was no patent for it.
There was nothing that could actually create any of these buildings, not a way of carrying them. Heavy material. We're talking about tons, huge concretes of like cement slabs that there's no way a horse and buggy could have moved.
I mean, we're talking like granite blocks.
I know.
That, whenever it rains, we have paved roads these days, but back then it was dirt and mud came out of all that rain.
And then these little wood wheels that...
little wagon wheels that were like really thin. Wasn't like they were like these big, thick off-roading wheels,
And then where did they get the material from? How did the horses get the hay and water they needed to actually move? And where did they get the labor force? There were hardly any people, and the rest were fighting the Civil War.
And some of the granite that, are on these buildings, you wouldn't be able to quarry that rock from anywhere near where they were built.
No.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
The official story, of course, official means the fake story, is these were temporary structures made of plaster over wooden frames, built fast, demolished after the fair, like some kind of, Olympic, portable stadium that, that comes and goes. But when you look at photographs of these buildings, they don't look temporary. They look like palaces, intricate stonework, massive domes, architectural sophistication that rivals anything in Europe.
And the timeline doesn't make sense. This is 1890s Chicago. The city's still recovering from the Great Fire of 1871. The technology is horses and carts, dirt roads. And somehow they're erecting palatial structures in months? I don't believe it.
Some of these buildings are still standing today. The Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago was the Palace of Fine Arts from the 1893 fair. It's been there for over 130 years. If it was temporary plaster, how has it survived?
The hypothesis that researchers are exploring is this. These buildings weren't built for the fairs. They were already there, part of an older architectural tradition, possibly from a more advanced previous civilization. The fairs were opportunities to showcase them, maybe to refurbish them, and then they were demolished to hide their true origin.
Now here's where it connects to acoustic technology. Many of these old world buildings have features that don't make obvious sense if they're just decorative architecture.
And plus, the fact that half of these people, you're talking about poverty. We're in a time, in that timeline, there was a lot of poverty. People didn't have money to throw around to create these gigantic buildings. They didn't have the workforce. I don't know how people could just fall for this. So elaborate metal spires topped with copper or gold fixtures. Dome structures with precise geometric proportions, massive windows, and vaulted interiors that create specific acoustic effects.
The question being asked is this. Were these buildings designed as energy devices, specifically as collectors of atmospheric electricity?
We know wireless energy transmission is possible. Nikola Tesla's demonstrated it. His Wardenclyffe Tower was designed to broadcast electrical power wirelessly through the atmosphere. That's documented history.
But Tesla's project was shut down in 1906. Financial backers pulled out. The official story is the technology wasn't profitable. But what if the real reason was that Tesla was rediscovering something that threatened existing power structures?
And if atmospheric electricity could be collected and distributed for free, if buildings themselves could function as power generators and transmitters, you'd eliminate the need for coal, oil, centralized power plants. The entire energy economy collapses.
And if old world buildings already incorporated this technology, if the metal spires and dome structures were functional rather than decorative, then removing those features and forgetting their purpose becomes economically necessary for anyone invested in quote-unquote fossil fuel industries.
You don't need a coordinated global conspiracy. You just need multiple independent actors making similar decisions because those decisions protect their financial interests. Over time, the knowledge is lost. Later generations look at these buildings and think the ornamental features are just artistic expression.
But here's what ties us back to black noise. If these buildings were acoustic devices, if they were designed with specific proportions and materials to create resonant effects, then they would function similarly to the pyramids and Stonehenge.
They would affect consciousness. They would influence physiology. And depending on the frequency they generated, they could heal or they could harm.
You know, you don't have to go very far in any major city to see these big cathedrals that are beautiful architectural marvels. They capture an essence of creativity and art, and their acoustics. People usually like to record in a certain hall because it has that sound that you can't, create in a studio.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
and then what they have on top are all these like type of spires or crosses and things of that nature that I believe is what gathered the atmospheric electrical components.
And then let's not forget, these are open structures inside, and a lot of them house a big pipe organ that has lots of resonance. When you hear a pipe organ, it resonates throughout your body.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you hear I've had the privilege of hearing a full-on old school pipe organ, and they are very, very formidable.
People don't understand how frequency works and what we're made up of, which is a lot of water, and our cells, when certain frequencies are transmitted, could either heal itself or hurt itself.
Yeah, and you don't have to go very far to look at those experiments that this Japanese scientist did with frequencies effect on sand and how it moves and it becomes disarrayed and chaotic in some forms, and then if it hears certain types of music or something, and then it turns into some beautiful, form on the table. It literally repositions itself.
And the experiments that they've done with plants and certain things where people yell at the plant or say beautiful things to it, and just with the cadence of the voice and your emotions, the plant or whatever is placed in the experiment either dies or actually takes a better form,
So we're not saying this is proven. I mean, we're saying the physical evidence, it raises questions that standard architectural history doesn't adequately answer.
Across cities worldwide, you see buildings with semi-buried first floors, windows and doorways below current ground level, as if the entire structure sank or the ground rose dramatically.
You don't have to go very far to see these things either. The standard explanation is gradual urban development. Streets get repaved, ground levels rise over time. But when you see this pattern repeated across hundreds of cities on multiple continents, all showing similar levels of burial, it starts looking less gradual and more like a single event.
Yeah, some researchers call it the mud flood, a catastrophic event or series of events that deposited massive amounts of sediments globally, burying existing structures. Is there geological evidence for this? Regional flooding is documented. A global mud deluge in recent centuries, that's contested.
But the buildings are there. The architectural anomalies, well, they're real. The missing construction records are real. And the question remains, if these structures were built by the civilizations officially credited with building them, why do they look so similar across vast geographic distances? Why do they follow the same geometric principles? And I remember you telling me about your time in Argentina and how the buildings, they had this Greco-Roman pillars and lots of like
statues, and I'm like, why does Argentina have all those Roman structures? And at the time, I wasn't awakened enough to know, but I mean, they had these beautiful, beautiful structures. And I'm like, wow, how did they get all this, you know?
And it's the kind of architectural fingerprint or autograph of the age that pretty much kind of trademarks it and makes it, it's like, oh yes, this is from these people who built things like this.
But they didn't even build it.
But it could be like, you know, hundreds and thousands of years before.
Right.
You know.
So it suggests either global architectural knowledge that was widely shared or structures that predate the supposed construction dates and come from a civilization with advanced understanding of geometry, acoustics, and energy.
It's one of those things that kind of escapes notice when you hear about how certain things are described. And then what I'm really specifically focusing on is the word founded. The word founded, that means that they found it. Doesn't mean they built it.
No.
I mean, founded. You know, it's like we don't know what it was for, but we're going to repurpose it for whatever we think we could use it for, but we found it, you know.
And it's like these people, I mean, you see some of the old pictures were literally almost like placed there in these like floors or roads that are just mud, dirt roads with these really gigantic, beautifully advanced buildings. Something just doesn't fit. You know, something is completely off. How did that generation get there? Were they placed there by a species? I mean, there's so many answers and questions.
We're really not that far removed from those pictures.
No,
I mean,
we're not.
The film camera in the modern age didn't really, you know, come into existence until the early 1900s. So we're in 2025 right now.
Yeah.
That's 125 years ago, you know. So if that's his civilization understood acoustics the way ancient Egyptians and Stonehenge builders did, then black noise wouldn't be a modern weapon. It would be an ancient technology forgotten and then rediscovered in the 20th century. Of course, we would want to use it for nefarious purposes, whereas they were using it to heal the planet, to heal the people. You know, that's why all those big cathedrals, you know, they were probably healing centers.
Yeah, they weren't churches. They were healing centers, true healing centers. So Gavru didn't invent infrasound weapons. He rediscovered them. Bowie did predict the future. He was pointing to the past.
All right, let's come back to the present, because acoustic weapons aren't theoretical or historical. They're deployed right now in cities across the United States.
LRAD, Long Range Acoustic Device. It's a focused sound cannon that police and military forces use for crowd control. It looks like a large speaker, but it's far more sophisticated than that.
I think I saw it when I was working at the Republican National Convention. They had these military vehicles that had these big, huge, like what they describe like as a big speaker, but it's like if it was used to disperse crowds or something, you know, they would generate a sound. Never got to that point where they needed to use it, but I remember thinking, wow, we live in a militarized state, even now, you know, and this was 2008. LRAD creates a narrow beam of sound about 15 degrees wide that can travel thousands of meters. The largest models can reach out over 5 kilometers with sound levels exceeding 160 decibels at the source.
If there was ever a massive problem in the world, people think that having their weapons are going to save them. If they pull out these types of technology, our eardrums, our eyeballs, our entire organs
Yeah.
would just be made mush.
It's not like you can like hole yourself up and seek refuge in a building when you're being pummeled with these weapons.
Exactly. So for context, 120 decibels is a rock concert. 140 decibels is a jet engine at takeoff. 160 decibel causes immediate and permanent hearing damage. We're talking about pain, disorientation, and physical injury from sound alone.
LRAD operates in the 2000 to 4000 hertz range, frequencies where human hearing is most sensitive. So unlike Gavro's infrasound, which you can't hear, LRAD is painfully audible. It's designed to be unbearable.
It has two modes. Communication mode, where it amplifies human speech for long-range warnings, and deterrent mode, where it produces a shrieking alarm tone specifically engineered to cause pain and force people to leave an area.
The technology has been used on protesters, Black Lives Matter demonstrations, border security, naval operations, and the injuries are documented. Permanent tinnitus, hearing loss, nausea, headaches lasting days or weeks.
In 2017, a federal judge ruled against the NYPD for deploying LRAD against protesters without adequate warning at a dangerous proximity. But the device is still in use. It's still classified as a communication tool rather than a weapon, which means it faces less regulation.
So the acoustic weapons Bowie warned about in 1974 are real. They're deployed and they're causing permanent physiological harm to civilians. This, well, it's not conspiracy theory. This is documented reality.
And the LRAD is just what we know about. Military research into acoustic technologies is ongoing. Infrasound research continues. Ultrasound research, frequency above human hearing, is exploring applications in everything from medical imaging to potential weapons.
The physics that Gavreau demonstrated, frequency affecting human bodies and structures, that's not in question. The only question is how far the technology has advanced and what's been classified.
Because here's the thing about acoustic weapons. They're invisible. No bullet holes, no shrapnel, no chemical residue. You can affect a crowd, cause injuries, create panic, and to an outside observer, it looks like people just spontaneously are freaking out.
That's the perfect weapon for population control. It's non-lethal officially, but the effects can be permanent. And because the weapon is invisible, proving you've been attacked is nearly impossible.
There's one more layer to this that we need to address. Because black noise isn't just about physical acoustic weapons. It's about frequency in a broader sense.
We're living in an environment of constant stimulation. Notifications, alerts, social media feeds, news cycles designed to trigger emotional responses. Our attention is being bombarded by information at a frequency our brains were not designed to process.
Think about it in terms of vibration. Human consciousness has natural rhythms, sleep cycles, attention spans, emotional regulations. We're designed to operate at a certain pace, but modern technology is forcing us to operate at a much higher frequency.
Constant alerts, infinite scroll, content refreshing every second. The rhythm of digital life is literally out of sync with the rhythm of human biology.
That's a form of black noise, not acoustic, but cognitive, a frequency assault on consciousness that fractures attention, disrupts emotional stability, and makes sustained thought nearly impossible.
And just like Gavreau's infrasound, this operates below conscious awareness. You're not thinking, I'm being manipulated by algorithmic frequency. You just feel anxious, distracted, unable to focus.
Ancient people used frequency deliberately in controlled settings for specific purposes: healing, spiritual development, community rituals. Modern society bombards us with frequencies constantly with no understanding of cumulative effects.
So the acoustic weapons that Gavreau discovered and the LRAD deploys are just one form of frequency-based control. The broader phenomenon is that power operates through rhythm and vibration in ways that people don't perceive.
And that's what Bowie was really warning us about. Not just the literal sound bombs, but the principle that frequency is power, and whoever controls the frequency controls reality.
So here's where we land. Black noise is real. It's documented in Gavro's research from the 50s. It's present in ancient temples built thousands of years ago. It may have been understood by civilizations we've forgotten or dismissed, and it's deployed right now in the form of LRAD and other acoustic technologies.
The question isn't whether frequency can be weaponized. The question is, are you aware of the frequencies you're exposed to? Are you conscious of how they affect your body, your mind, your perception of reality?
Ancient peoples were careful about frequency. They used it deliberately. In sacred spaces with trained practitioners, we're bathed in frequencies constantly, electromagnetic, acoustic, informational, with no training, no awareness, and no consent.
Bowie tried to tell us. Gavro documented it. Ancient builders encoded it in stone. And now you know.
The buildings are still standing. The technology, well, it still exists. The frequencies are still operating. Your job is to be conscious of them.
Because the first step towards freedom is awareness. And awareness starts with paying attention to what you can't hear, but absolutely can feel.
This has been a very fascinating topic because it's something that you don't really hear about. And like they said, that interview, it was buried in the annals of history for a very long time. I mean, 1974, I was 4 years old when that came out.
I was 10.
You know, and that was like, you know, it took this long for the 2000s to show up with, you know, a social media platform called YouTube that we're on right now, on YouTube. And it has it's uncorked so much. I mean, prior to YouTube, was there a place where you could go in order to find out how to anything?
No, not really. And before YouTube and before the internet, because there's a lot of things out there, a lot of documentaries, a lot of things that we are becoming aware of, things that we're like, I never thought of that before. I mean, some of the stuff we watch and we're like, wow, never really thought about this, and that, and certain structures that are standing, and how can they have possibly be built when we didn't have the technology to build them. We didn't know a lot of these things, and we've lost because we don't see any of those buildings being built today.
But it's like when I was a kid, we had Childcraft and World Book Encyclopedia.
That was it. Yeah.
And if you wanted to find out more information, you know, there was the bookmobile. You know, we had like a local bus that was equipped as a little faux library. Or you could go get dropped off. Your mom could drop you off at the library to study for a term paper, look at microfilm. Like we were at the library today at the university,
Right.
When we were walking today. And doesn't it feel like old school, like looking at some of these old forms of
Totally.
getting your information? I mean, if you wanted to know about the news or something, you would go into this area of the library that had all the daily newspapers from around, you know, the country, around the world, some of them, you know, and you would check out books.
Yeah, and the information was slowly fed into your system. Right now, it's incredible. It's like information overload. I mean, we don't even really think about it because we've been being exposed to this for many years now, but our nervous system, this is why we have all these neurological impairments, all these diseases, because our bodies just can't handle that influx of stimulation. Frequencies from everywhere, from the lights that we sit under, from the television we sit and watch, whatever's being bombarded, whatever kind of alpha ray, gamma rays and all that stuff, our phones, I mean, even when we're walking, all that electrical poles and Wi-Fi towers, and I mean, it's just no wonder people are sick. No wonder, I mean, you see more diseases now than you ever saw years past.
Yet, medical, pharmaceutical people would tell you, oh, we're now at the point where people they don't die as early as they used to because we have things where they can actually live long with whatever chronic disease they have, so that they don't tell you.
So they say, because we don't know if, I mean, our thinking is this civilization is probably no more than 300 years old. During that 1800s time where all these things are popping up, there's something that happened in that timeline.
And we've got more
yeah.
to go into. You know, we're going to investigate more about, you know, what was the Civil War? I mean, really, you know, we're told that it was this fight between the North and the South and slavery and the Union. And, you know, I mean, it's like, we don't know if that is just a setup that will allow the narrative to be changed about what that actually was. What was the gold rush? What was it that caused people to like rush over to the West Coast? I mean, were they really panning for gold in these little rivers and sifting through their little, whatever, their sifters to find the little nugget, you know, that's in the, or was it something different? Were there already cities, megalithic structures, or massive amounts of wealth?
And where did they get all these soldiers to fight these wars? And how did they get them to communicate? Because they were from all over the world.
They were like Russian and Prussian and German and Scottish and, you know, I mean, you had like Italian, and all of a sudden they come to this country and they decide that they're not going to speak the language anymore of their native homeland. These people who come from, you know, Italians are going to just stop speaking Italian.
Yeah, and speaking the language of the oppressor, which was Britain. And all of a sudden they started speaking English, and they just let go of their original language. And these people came from all over the place without any certain skills that were required.
Right.
I mean, we have so much.
I mean, metallurgy skills are not something you learn like, you know, in like 10 days or something, and you make this huge, massive skyscraper. I mean, people look at the Empire State Building and they think, oh, wow, what an amazing structure. I mean, it's like, do you really think that they built that thing in the 1920s?
There's no way.
I mean, here we were in the middle of the Great Recession.
Yeah.
The stock market had just tanked. Yeah. People were out of millions of dollars, their livelihoods, you know, mass suicide.
Wars, diseases.
Yeah, we were just like recovering from the Spanish flu, whatever that was. And then there was this World War One, you know, and
we've been lied to, and the timeline just doesn't match at all. I mean, there's just so much information that it literally makes your brain hurt. But, you know, we just have to discover. And it all ties in also with a lot of the stuff that we've talked about in the past with the whole religion theory and structure that was put in to get people to be obedient, to get people not to question the narrative.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, literally going from town to telling people who had their own homemade remedies, their own ways of dealing with any kind of medical problems, literally telling them that they were not going to be able to use their herbal remedies anymore, and that they were now going to have to depend on the pharmaceutical industry. And it just so happened to coincide with the rich oil magnates that were the robber barons that, I guess that's the people that our dear leader has wanted to emulate and wants those great times back when America was great again, right? When America used to like command, you know,
have free labor and
slavery, child slavery was rampant. Lynchings were not something that were some kind of rarity.
No.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
But people just don't question. People just go along to get along. They have no understanding that this magical civilization and culture just, boom, just happened, you know, and it's
just this great experiment just all of a sudden just landed here,
Yeah.
you know, and oh no, the country wasn't really settled. It was very, very frontierish and very, you know, wild, and you know, it's like there were squatters that were living inside the buildings in Salt Lake City when the Europeans came to that part. There was already certain things that were there.
yeah.
You know,
They didn't create anything. They kind of inherited all the things that were here. And there was a time where people that weren't doing what they're being told got put into mental institutions, insane asylum. Funny that our fearless leader loves to talk about a state asylum a lot, but you know, you kind of wonder about all the information regarding World's Fair. He's talked about bringing that back, and you kind of wonder, is he part Anunnaki and lived in that time,
or time at least a time traveler
Yeah.
who came from that time in American history, and where
Yeah, something, you know, out of this world, but everything that we're seeing is pretty much out of this world. I mean, we're going to learn and see things that our eyes are just not, I guess, not ready for, or a lot of people aren't ready for it, because it's really,
I mean, just think about it. What's happened today with regards to the Epstein files and the whole petition and all that, and how they literally, the Republican House Majority Leader, Mike Johnson, literally had a sitting elected congresswoman from the state of Arizona have to sit around for 50 days just because they didn't want her to be the 218th signee.
they've been holding this off. They've been making all sorts of excuses to now say, they, the president and them, we want the truth to come out. They want to control the narrative. That's what they want to do.
They lost the narrative on the American people because the American people were like, you know what? This is bad. We need to investigate it. This is something that people who are MAGA, they have been just railing on since the time of like Obama, you know, with regards to Bill Clinton and all these other storylines that they're like, oh, it's the deep state. You know, they're talking about like Joe Biden when he was being elected, that he was going to be arrested by, you know, the cabal was going to be cleaned up. And, you know, it's really fascinating that this is how things have progressed, but now to the point where you can't cover it up anymore.
No, you can't.
People are not going to just sit around.
Yeah, this is so big and so deep that most people can't wrap their heads around it. There's a lot of people in power, people that you wouldn't even remotely think are involved. And that is why this has been the way that it has. I actually saw a video today of a pretty decently, maybe in his 20s, gay man who is a model. And he's been trying to sound the alarm, because it's not just women that have been hurt by this. There have been many men that are model men, that are gay, that have also have felt the wrath of this ring, this evil, disgusting pedo ring. And it goes deep. It goes to people with a lot of money. Like Mark Johnson was saying today, well, you know, we have to make sure, because there's a lot of people, there's going to be new victims, meaning a lot of the people with money that are involved that are going to be hurt by this. And they don't want that exposure.
No, and it was so obvious that he was trying to deflect about his dear president, our president, you know, that he literally was saying, and there's nothing in the files for some of these people who were just, you know, they just happened to have lunch with him or Thanksgiving with him or something. You know, it's like, you don't realize, though, President Trump has been in more of the correspondence of the emails from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. He's been in more pictures with Epstein. I mean, I saw an image that this morning that showed like since 1990s, you know, they were taking pictures together and with different, you know, entertainers. I mean, one was with James Brown, you know, who sang what's that song he's known for, like singing "It's a Man's World," you know, and just this is the man's club. Rules don't apply to us. We get to do whatever we want. We get to have whatever kind of sex we want to have with boys, with men, with women, with, you know, all kinds. I mean, at any time.
This is something that goes back in history with ritualistic type of things for the gods, you know, and it's been going on for a very long time. They've been hiding it. They've been oppressing it. They've been sweeping it under a rug. But the time of revelation is now. They could try to, and people are not going to fall for some little, you know, because they're going to try to control. They're going to try to take things out of that list and put in what they want. But people are not going to fall for it. We're not stupid.
No, they think we're stupid. People have been, you know, ignorant for a while, but at this point in our existence, the gig is up. Yeah. You know, I mean, we have a time, you know, we were watching that remake of a slavery situation like Roots or something, where the leader of the slaves, you know, the black guy that was kind of like the leader, the white slave owner would make him do things sexually that would kind of shame him to the point of like losing respect among his own people.
Right.
And this is America, people. This is this country. This country has been and is racist.
And have a lot of perversion through his history. What slave owners did to the slaves, what they've done to children, what they've done to women. I mean, again, this goes back to biblical times. In your own Bible, there's a lot of really sick stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, we have like historical accounts that they say about Thomas Jefferson having owned slaves, and, you know, he impregnated, you know, slaves, and, you know, it's deep. You know, Warren G. Harding, different people, Van Buren, all these different, you can look through history and see the stories and go, wait a minute, this isn't just one president.
No.
I mean, the person that was, there was one woman, one of the victims, who said that, you know, her sister brought it up. They were both abused by this Epstein scandal and stuff, these people. And they brought it up in like 90s. And it was during the time of Clinton. Nothing was done.
Yeah.
Then something else happened. During the time of Bush, nothing was done. This isn't about political parties. I mean, this is about the elite.
Mm-hmm. This
is about their hold on humanity, their plans. I mean, we were reading, an excerpt that Michael Wolff did like a little short story about what it was like to be inside the Epstein mansion in New York, and just what went on there. I mean, these are power people playing power games, billionaires that don't know what else to do with their money, because filthy rich people before, they would like donate to like a college or help humanity some way. But these tech oligarchs now, they just want to find ways in which they can control humanity and make it subject to them, and to be able, the Bezos of the world, the Zuckerbergs of the world, these Elon Musks of the world. I mean, they
and those that we
literally
don't even know about.
Oh yeah, the ones
There's
that are
behind the
silent
scene,
majority.
yeah.
Behind the scenes,
They sit around at a table, conversing what the next event of the world will be. I mean,
and then we're not even talking human at this point. We're talking about consulting with their handlers who are not even human.
Yeah.
They are off-world beings, interdimensional beings.
Yeah.
Some say Anunnaki beings, other races that are pretty much kind of pulling the strings of humanity, the bloodlines.
We're even going to go into in other shows that this is pretty much like some sort of fishbowl, and these beings literally control our every move, and they do all sorts of different things to humanity. We're like little lab rats, like a little colony of ants that they sit there and amuse themselves with. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but more and more information comes out.
I mean, there's stories about, what really happened back in 1492, that an old sun, there were two suns potentially, and that one actually went out. Some say that, that the moon is like a blacked out sun right now that we see, because the moon doesn't operate as a reflector of the sun, because it's like its frequency, its tonal quality is not the reflectance, it's of the sun radiation.
Yeah, it would radiate more heat like the sun, or it would look more yellow as the sun, but instead it has its own light and its own frequency. I mean, there's just so much stuff. I mean,
and then we're talking about flat Earth. We're talking about, what have we been really told about the reality of our existence, about our history, about what took place even 100 years ago. Yeah. This reset of the latest batch of humans, well, it's not that long ago.
It's not. I'm saying 200, 300 years max.
Yeah.
That's about it.
What if 1776, they paint it, there's this big Ken Burns documentary. He's known for doing all these Americana documentaries and stuff. He's doing one about the Civil War. He did one about the Civil War. It was really famous. And now he's doing one about the Revolutionary War. Yeah. And he's talking about certain things that took place during that. But what if those are all stories that have been invented and put into our brains, memories that have been implanted into the last crop of humans that, maybe these actual events never happened. It's just another way of controlling the narrative. Yeah. Tell the people what they believe, how they believe. Yeah. And then we're going back even further. We go back to biblical times and ancient history and stuff. And
what if none of that ever happened?
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were given a video showing that the actual, Pyramid of Giza and the what is it? The different monuments there. What was it? The one?
Oh, the one that Russian guy.
He was like, "This is all like formed during this past century." Yeah. This isn't.
They pretend that they were fixing it and putting the head of the Sphinx, and it's like, we've been told so many lies. The timeline is not at all the timeline they've created or told us has been. I mean, and it's all going to come out. We're going to remember, because there's something happening in not only in our planet, but in the universe.
I mean, what if, people are so patriotic these days. Flag's been waved around like, not in like times past when I was a kid growing up, but it's like it's waved around like some kind of a symbol of defiance, and like we're going to get the truth and we're going to find out what they did. But when you realize that they is everybody in this country, they is Bush, is Obama, is the other Bush, is Clinton, is Trump, is Nixon, is, I mean,
They're all
and
both,
if they find out that none of these leaders were ethical people, and then we find out that none of this government is an ethical government,
Yeah.
what then happens? Do people just sit on that and go, wait a minute, so why did we go to Vietnam again? And
Look,
why did we fight in World War II? And what was that they said?
This is a massive experiment. The American experiment is a massive experiment. I mean, it's not even a country. It's a corporation. And the president of the United States is the president of the corporation. I mean, it's just like this rabbit trail goes so deep that I know it sounds unbelievable, but the more you look into it, the more you go down that rabbit hole, the more you learn, and the more you're like, I don't even have words.
Yeah.
I don't even have words anymore. I mean, totally. Seeing what's happening in that White House, all the events and all the things, it's like watching a soap opera, literally, every day.
I mean, it was bad the first term, but it's like we got a break afterwards. But this one, it's like, I swear, there's not one day that passes where something new isn't taking place. Like with regards to the trans community, there's like the Department of State changes its position on whether we should have passports, whether they're valid, whether they're not valid, whether we can, have a marker, not have a marker, if we have to change it, if we have to, and we're talking about people that, some of us have been transitioned for decades. Yeah. We've lived our lives this way.
I wrote something today. When I transitioned back in 2003, you had to live as the gender you're transitioning to for a year. You had to have at least 6 months to a year of therapy. You had to have surgeries, unreversible surgeries, because they were not going to change your documentation unless you had these procedures. So, because they didn't want people, to then be reproductive. They wanted you to get rid of your reproductive system. And so if they created all this, how fair is it for them to say, well, we reneged that. You now are infertile. You now did all these painful, irreversible procedures, but we're taking your identity away from you. That's not right. I think the medical community needs to stand up. I think we need to get attorneys to do a class action lawsuit against this administration. Because I transitioned 25 years ago. And I had to do all sorts of things. I had a hysterectomy and top surgery at the same time. It was a 7-hour procedure, grueling procedure that I could have died in the operating table. For them to tell me that they're going to take away my gender marker. He is nobody. He doesn't know anything about this condition. This is a biological condition. Okay, it's not a mental issue. We, of course, deal with a lot of mental problems because of the lack of acceptance and support that we've received from a very young age. So this is just wrong, and people need to realize that there's a lot of lies being spread out there about those of us in the trans community, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, there are so many lies. We were watching, Blair White doing a video. And apparently Blair White's a Christian now.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
That's another programming.
I saw that coming, though.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember she was on with Joe Rogan, and she talked about, having a DMT experience and that she felt closer to God. And then, it's like, and then she's talking about God. And I was like, oh, okay. So now we got that little bug going on.
Yeah,
and
because it's programming. I went through that programming.
A useful tool at this point, but she proposes a false narrative of like actual churches in America that have a drag queen story hour in the church. It's like,
Doesn't
not only is it it's in a library now, but
It's in a church.
It's in a church setting. And then she shows video of like what's probably not even a church.
Right.
And, like you said, when you grew up around the LGBT community, you never saw a drag queen sporting a beard.
Never. I've been going to drag shows since I was 17. I would sneak in. Actually, since I was 16, I would sneak into the bars. It was easier then. And I never once saw a drag queen sporting a beard. Drag queens were beautiful. They were feminine. They looked like women.
Yeah.
Okay. I never once in my entire time that I used to hang out in gay clubs all the time, did I ever see that? Ever.
No, I mean, that was something that came later with the whole gender queer, gender gender neutral, or whatever. What is it? The non-binary, and wearing a beard. I remember that one that was interviewed on the show with
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil,
Yeah.
and she was on and had a beard, and
that's okay. We're not.
No, but that's the thing though. They paint it as if every single drag queen is that. And
that's not.
There was like a show back in the early 2010s that was, called I Am Kate. And Kate had a girlfriend that she was like she was a former drag queen.
Right.
And she was on a television show with Alex Baldwin, and she was like this flamboyant, dancer, very feminine.
Yeah, and it was never sexual. I mean, it was like these performers really took their art seriously because it's an art. They would have this beautiful makeup on and these beautiful dresses, and they were very sensual, but it was respectful. It wasn't this whole thing that they've done with the drag queen hour, and you see these things doing all this sexualization. That was never it. I think, to me personally, that was a false flag created by the Christian nationalists. They had a campaign. They knew what they were going to do. They were going to attack us by making people fear that we're coming after your kids, that we're predators, that we're groomers. That was all part of their plan and their agenda. And I'm telling you, all lies.
And here's where the deflection happens. I was just reading a story on the Royce Report online that talked about Newsboys lead singer of a Christian rock band, Michael Tate, literally having groomed young men like since the 90s. He had a big coke habit, and he literally was caught just this past year.
Yep.
And these guys came up and they said, hey, this is not right. Our lives have been ruined because of you.
Yeah.
And blackballing us if we said anything, and that's the whole thing. We have a culture. We have a system in this country that rewards the elites, the ones with money, with privilege and ability to do whatever they want to do. And that's whether they're a pastor at a mega church, whether they're a leader in the government, whether they're an entertainer like P. Diddy.
Yep.
And, it's sick.
It is
It's sick because it's used to control entire nations,
And unfortunately, the minorities are the ones that get hurt because they're the ones that are targeted, and they create this narrative, get people against these minorities, us trans people of different colors and different races, the immigrants, and they literally turn society against us so that they could then instill more control mechanisms. And, it's just pathetic.
I didn't transition until 2013. And by 2010, the real life test had been removed from the whole, Harry Benjamin all the rules and regulations, but I was still in the afterglow of that. And I when I read in researching, because it takes a while for someone to transition and try to make sense of what was happening. And for me, I saw the real life test as being like you had to live as the gender that you claimed to be, more connected to, for a year.
Yep.
You had to go through several batteries of therapy and different levels, and you had to get different papers signed, and you needed to, I remember a woman that I would call my trans mom way back when, because she was an older trans woman, had the fortunate ability to actually meet her in person. But she said that when she transitioned in like 1978, I think it was, 77, she said that the biggest thing was that they didn't want two trans women living together. They're like, no, if you're going to transition, you need to transition and you need to make your case in this world and make your way in this world as the woman that you say you are. Mm-hmm. And it's, you're not to associate with other trans women. You're not to connect with other people. You're just to just connect with the world and be a part of it.
And that's why they allowed us to have the documentation change so we could blend in and live our lives.
There weren't many.
No.
It's not, something happened in the late 2010s where it became one come all.
That's when the 2010, when they removed all these guidelines and
they
things.
Took away, all the prerequisites and all the things that you needed to do, because if you're going to claim to live and be the person that you say you are, there's a price you must pay, because, that's...
But, I'm all for, and this is taking me time because I'm old school and I had to go through all sorts of stuff that most people didn't. But I'm like, okay, we're living in a world right now where things are changing. A lot of kids identify as genderqueer, non-conforming, binary, and all this stuff. And I think that's all part of the spirit evolution, because I don't think spirits have one particular gender. I think we're both yin and yang. We have a male and female energy, and that division came from the Yahweh God. So I just think that the Christians, the conservatives, and people that are fighting their own tendencies rebelled, the feminist movement, rebelled against us. And now we're seeing the ramification. They lied, they cheated, they created false flags. They pushed all these lies upon the population. And just when the population was starting to accept us and love us, they've turned against us.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to look too far than to see the president's latest Truth Social post where he says, transgender for everybody. We got rid of like that, and also the whole concept of men and women's sports. And it's like these are just like key catcall, things that would like spark, a certain attitude, a certain, response.
Yeah, they use the kids and use the whole thing with the sports.
Transgender for everybody. It's just like, really, this is so stupid. We have a president that literally said that a boy goes into the school and sits at the nurse's station and then comes out a girl.
If it was that easy.
Like it was just, that's what took place. And
people believe it.
People let these lies dictate, because Trump read from Mein Kampf, and the Mein Kampf book by the infamous, guy who wrote it says, if you tell a lie long enough,
people will believe
people are going to believe it.
And that's what's happened. And I mean, I'm online fighting all sorts of transphobia all day long, practically. And it's crazy to me, the things that people believe, the lies and then when you like educate people, they literally apologize to me, because they've been brainwashed to believe we're terrorists, we're the enemy, we're going to come after your kids, we're like crazy people, we have a mental illness. And they don't realize that there's a lot of biological makeups to this. If you really do the research and you really follow the science, this is not a whim. This is not some sort of thing that you do for the heck of it. This is something that's really deep internal, and there is definitely a biological component to it.
There's so much creativity within the community and the greater LGBTQ community, and that doesn't reflect a group of people that are disordered. I mean, that showcases the ability for people to be creative. And what part of like freak is that, when you're able to meld the feminine and the masculine into one person.
Yeah, it's a superpower.
And you're able to live your life as either, at different points in your life.
Yeah.
That's not something.
That's a massive experience.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a gift to be able to have the empathy for the other sex, although you weren't born that sex, and to know, yes.
The two will become one. We were divided by the demiurge that hates us and literally divided us because we started off as both male and female. And now we're coming back to some sort of that kind of memory. And that is feared because those that divided us, those Elohims, Anunnaki, that recreated us and messed with our DNA, don't want us because to like connect to both our male and female energy. Because it's energy. It's not about man or woman. It's female and male or masculine and feminine energy. It's a frequency. And there's something to it, and they fear it. And this is why we're seeing all this animosity.
And the people that say, that it's just based on a feeling, it's just based on, people's like emotions. It's like, I lost a lot in my transition. I had, a different life in the past, and I don't have that anymore. I've been pretty much removed from any of my family. They don't really want anything to do with me. And
so imagine if you just did that as some sort of like fetish or whatever. It's a lot to lose just for a hobby.
Just to like get your rocks off.
I know. It's
like looking at yourself and having some kind of sexual, response or something. It's like, no, that's not.
It's something deeper, something that most people never understand unless you're trans yourself. But it's something so soul deep, so incredibly, I can't even find the words. I can't. And I've battled with it myself because of the religious dogma and religious belief systems and things that I've gone back and forth. But once you finally surrender to who you truly are, and once you stop fighting the naysayers and those voices from the time you were little, you act too much like a boy, stop acting like a boy, you're a girl. All these like horrible messages that you get from the time you're little. Once you get rid of that, and once you just throw away all that religiosity, you're then able to tap into your true self. And it's the biggest gift anybody could ever have and live.
And you don't really like appreciate the ability to transcend, your given place that society wants you to be in, and to say, you know what? No, I don't want to live like that. This is who I am. I refuse to live under your rules.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that when people don't live by the rules, they usually get in trouble for not living by whatever the rules are, and whoever the rule maker and the rule enforcers are.
But that's part of the awakening. When you start to rebel and you go against the system and you go against the way they've tried to make us into these little slaves and have children and, you know, just do what you're told. When you rebel, you tap into something so great, so spiritually in tune that life, I mean, my life, and I've been through a lot. I'm 61 years old. But I tell you, where I'm at right now in my spiritual concept, I'm in my own right now. Like I've never been. Even back then when I first transitioned, now, after I've been through all the things that I've been through, and it's only going to get better for me because the deeper you go into who you are, tapping into your spirit, into your higher self, man, it's just a whole different ball game.
And it's really has nothing to do with whether you're masculine or feminine, whether you're a man or a woman. It's about discovering that alchemy.
Yeah.
You know, of
it's very deep.
Of your true being.
It's very deep. It's there's no words. There really isn't. Boy, we've been rambling a lot and no one's engaged today. Either you all are engrossed in what we're saying or
you just have us on the side. But that's okay. We appreciate you guys
being here.
And whoever comes later, you know,
watching,
we appreciate you as well. And thank you for being a part of this conversation. We hope that if anything that you heard today was something that would spark any interest, that we encourage you to do your own research. You know, there's so many resources out there now, all these different tools for learning and the ability to pull information and to make it all concise so that you could literally, like, you don't have to read the entire book. You could just get the book and then be able to get the highlights from it and to be able to glean information. And it's really an interesting age that we're living in.
Totally. And yeah, lots to learn, lots to like remember, because the information is all inside of you. You just need to remember. And, you know, it's exciting. It's exciting to really tap in. Anyway, stay conscious, stay curious, and remember, not every weapon makes noise.
That's true. Not every weapon makes noise. That's an amazing, you know, reality to think that sometimes the most powerful weapons are silent.
Yeah. And that's what they're using right now. You know, in all the media and all the gadgets and everything that we wear, our watches. I mean, we're sitting ducks, if you really think about it. So you really have to build your spirit and create a barrier of protection around yourself and learn who you are. That is, to me, the biggest message I could give all of you. Learn who you truly are. And you may ask, well, how do you do that? You sit in silence, you meditate, you go inward, you remove all this distraction, all this bombardment of information and frequencies that are literally destroying your own light, your own power. Get into your own power, get into your own essence. Stop giving your power away. Once you tap into your source, the sky's no limit. Literally. All right, guys, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Catch you Thursday. We'll have another exciting and interesting show for you. Be well and take care. Subscribe, hit that notification button, and share all the